Ahoy there, goobers. Welcome to Create and Destroy. I'm your host, Dan Donnarumma, and this is episode number 25. Moving and grooving here, loving it. I'm seriously so goddamn excited about my episode and today's guest. I was really fortunate enough to be able to sit down and speak to Kristin Hayter, also known as Lingua Ignota. I first discovered Lingua Ignota from The Body's most recent release, I Have Fought Against It. She sings in the song Nothing Stirs, and I absolutely love that goddamn song, and I love the part of the song when Kristin starts singing. It gets me every goddamn time I listen to it. Her vocals are fantastic. And so from there I wound up looking up Kristin's music, discovering her release All Bitches Die. She released it in 2017, and then last year Profound Lore wound up reissuing that release. And from start to finish, it is such a fantastic release. Kristin's music is something else, man. She mixes elements of metal and noise, industrial, classical music, and she does it so goddamn well. And she really makes something that is very, very unique, very, very innovative, and extremely gripping. And as I mentioned, her vocals are seriously intense as hell and awesome as fuck. To say that I was excited to be able to sit down and speak to Kristin would be an understatement. I was really, really excited to be able to have a conversation with her. And we talked about a wide variety of different subjects. So Kristin recently went to Europe and toured with Amenra. So we talked about that tour and how those shows went. We talked about her release All Bitches Die. And we delved into some of the themes that the album explores. We also got to talk a little bit about some projects and releases that Kristin has coming down the pipe in the near future, which I'm so damn excited about. And as I mentioned, I had a really good time speaking to Kristin. She was just super freaking nice, super chill, and was so easy to talk to. So I really, really had fun speaking to her. So enough of me babbling. Let's get into it. Here's my conversation with Kristin Hayter. All right, Kristin, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. I'm doing regular. I'm having a regular time today.
How's the weather by you? It's like here in Rochester, New York, it's been like the temperature's been fluctuating. So last week it was like in the 60s. This morning it was freaking snowing. It was just so weird.
Really? It's snowing out there?
Yeah, which sucks.
Yeah. I don't know what's going on with the world. Well, I guess we do know what's going on. Yeah, it's been like, it was really cold last night. I went out to see Street Sex and it was freezing. And then, but the last few days, it's been like 80s. I don't know. It's very confusing.
Oh, man, that's awesome.
Yeah, who can say?
So last week I went to the Flenser showcase shows in Brooklyn.
Oh, yeah.
And was it Friday night or Saturday? I can't remember which night it was, but Street Sex was playing like after one of the shows. And I was staying out in Long Island, and it was just, it would have been too much for me to go see the show that night and then the after party show. But I'm so bummed that I missed Street Sex because I have not seen them, and they seem like they would be freaking awesome live.
You should really see them. So you know about the show, like what they do, their thing.
So not really. I saw photos from people last week, and it looked fucking insane.
Yeah, I just wrote on Twitter about how they totally have this incredibly curated live performance that's super, super terrifying, and it's one of the most effective as far as terrifying that I've seen ever. So they completely obliterate the room with fog, and it's just like you can't see 2 feet in front of you. And then they have really, really aggressive strobing. And then the music is the kind of noisecore style. It's cacophonous. It's like super non-linear. So the entire experience is just like, it just creates panic. In me personally, like it just creates like a total panic response. And I think either people get totally like bound and stuck, or they, like me, have to like flee the room. And so last night, like they set off the smoke alarm. Everyone was people were trying to find out where the smoke alarm was in the venue and couldn't find it. And I'm so disoriented. I'm pointing at like a light fixture and I'm like, that's it. And people are like, no, you fucking dumbass. That's not the smoke alarm. That's a light. And I don't know. It's really great what they do. How was the rest of the Flenser show? I really wish I'd been there to see that.
It was incredible. And I'm so bummed that I didn't stay for Street Sex after you were explaining that. But the 2 nights, so I went to both nights and they were awesome. I really love Midwife and I finally got to see her play and she was absolutely freaking incredible. Have a Nice Life. They were seriously so awesome. And what's cool is like live, they sound more, I don't know if fast paced is the word, but almost more like punk kind of sound. They're just they're so awesome live. Yeah, every band was absolutely incredible. I love Wreck-N' Reference and I hadn't gotten to see them play as well, and they were freaking awesome. Yeah,
so
it was just, yeah, I seriously was like driving back to Rochester that last Sunday on Cloud 9. It was such a great weekend.
Yeah, Flenser is a great label. Jonathan does a really good job of putting out stuff that's really challenging. And I don't know, it's again, like it's a really well curated label. He just puts out great stuff. I really like Elizabeth Color Wheel as well.
Okay, so their live set is absolutely incredible. The lead singer, oh my god, I can't remember. I think it's Lane. Her vocals are absolutely fantastic, and she's just such a great performer. I would highly recommend, if you ever get a chance to see them, to go see them.
I definitely want to. I hope to in the future, near future, hopefully.
And so you got to play South by Southwest recently. How was that experience for you?
That was insane. It was insane. I never thought that I would play South by Southwest of all people. Amanda Palmer, who is incredible, wrote to me a few months ago saying that she was a fan of my music and asked me to open for her for a different show. And I was not able to do it at the time. I was already going out to Denver to play with Thou for a few shows. And so she wrote to me recently, like less than a month ago, and was like, South by Southwest is insisting that I have an opener and I can't think of anybody who I'd want to do it except for you. Is there any way that you can do it? And I was like, yes. I've heard that South by Southwest is like a total fucking nightmare clusterfuck, but I didn't really witness very much of that. I mostly kind of stayed outside of the chaos and just kind of went into town for the actual show, and the venue, First Presbyterian Church, I think is what it's called, was really, really nice and very, very kind. And Amanda and her team were very, very nice and very kind. And it was just like, it was fairly smooth. And the show itself was really beautiful in this church, beautiful sound. I got to play a grand piano, which I have not been able to do so far in my performances. So that was, it was really wonderful. And then to see Amanda play. And one of the great things about doing this work is that I get to open for all these really amazing artists. And Amanda is like a true master, like watching her sound check and just, she's so fluent in music. And it was just amazing to watch. And she played like this massive 2.5 hour set, and she just totally captivates people and moves them. And it was really cool to watch. I don't know. It was a great experience. I'm really, really lucky. That is really awesome to hear. What was it like when you got to realize that you were going to be able to play on a grand piano? Oh, I was so excited. So excited. It was, yeah, I mostly have to deal with like this like gross MIDI keyboard thing that I haul around, and occasionally like I trash them all the time. Probably in the last year I've thrown away like 9 or 10 MIDI keyboards because they just like I'll flip them and they'll break, or I don't know. I'm not very careful with my equipment. So it's always like kind of a nasty little piece of trash that I'm hauling around. But to actually play like a beautiful instrument was really cool. Felt really good. That's so cool. Yeah. And have you ever been to South by Southwest before or no? No, I've never been. People were telling me, I was convinced that I was like gonna die because people were like, you need to bring like medication, you need to bring emergency, you need to bring stuff for allergies. Like, what the hell? Like, as the only thing I wasn't told to bring was like a hazmat suit. It was like I was really anticipating like the apocalypse, but I think it was just because like in that downtown zone, I guess the infrastructure is like not built for that type of crowd So everyone's like, it's really dirty and it's like a fucking cesspool, like blah blah blah. So I just booked a place like outside of town and it was fine.
That's great. Yeah, my wife and neither of us have ever been there before, and we've talked about going to South by Southwest, and then there's a couple of like really cool parks in Texas, so we've talked about going to that festival and then going to check out some of the parks there. So eventually I'll make it there, but I haven't gone.
Have you heard about the park with the peacocks?
Oh my God, no.
That's okay. So I went to this park. That's one of the couple things that we did. Went to see the Ellsworth Kelly Chapel at University of Austin, which I highly recommend. Very, very beautiful. And there's a park that has just kind of like free roaming peacocks. It's super bizarre and very, very cool. They're just like, I don't know how many there are, but at least a dozen peacocks just kind of like hanging out, and you can just walk around them. It's crazy.
My wife's aunt and uncle own a farm in central New York, and they essentially like raise primarily waterfowl, some donkeys. They got some horses, goats, and alpacas. And one of the things that they have is multiple peacocks. So whenever we go there for like Easter dinner or just to hang out, we'll be sitting there eating dinner, and there's just peacocks hanging out, and they make like a very weird kind of noise. I don't know I don't know what the hell their bird call would be called, but yeah, it's a very weird noise. They're such awesome freaking birds.
They really are. When I was like 5 years old, I used to be like a little equestrian when I was a kid. I was like total horse girl as a child, and I took lessons from the director of the San Diego Zoo at her farm, and she had all these crazy animals at her farm. She had zebras, which apparently are very aggressive. And she also had peacocks, and they do have this insane call. It's very specific.
Yeah, totally. And one of my favorite things to do at my wife's aunt and uncle's farm is hang out with the goats. So probably within the next like month or two, their goats will give birth, and we always go and hang out with the baby goats, and they are absolutely awesome.
Oh, that's so cool. Baby goats. What do you think
they are the best.
So they have alpacas out there. What do you think of alpacas? I'm curious.
They are such weird and amazing animals. So they
weird.
Yeah. So usually when we hang out and play with the goats, the alpacas are in their own like enclosed area, but it's right next to where the goats are. So usually the alpacas are curious as to what's going on. So they'll be hanging out there watching us as we're playing with the goats, but they typically don't bother us.
Right.
And I forget the name of the horses. They're like the Budweiser horses.
Clydesdale.
Yeah. So they have a Clydesdale, and this thing is a freaking monster. So that will also be in an enclosure that's right by where the goats are. And so we're hanging out with the goats. There's freaking alpacas to like our left, a goddamn Clydesdale to our right. It's wild. It's awesome.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So man, when you left South by Southwest, like what was going through your head when you got to kind of think about you performing there and experiencing that festival for the first time?
I felt really, really grateful and very, very lucky. I'm in a support role a lot for the time being, and do a lot of opening, and that was a really wonderful opening experience where I was treated respectfully and treated kindly and treated with like attention, and it was really, really, really nice. And Amanda again was like so kind, and I don't know, for me it was a really wonderful experience, and to get to play in a church and at a piano, like I want to do that every show now.
That's so cool.
So yeah,
there's a venue in Buffalo, which is like an hour from where I live, and it's a church, and the acoustics in that venue are phenomenal. So I'm sure being able to play on a grand piano in a church was probably really awesome.
Yes, yeah, definitely. It creates it's just like a totally different kind of atmosphere, and one that I think really benefits experiencing the work. And also for me, it was nice because I think I'm kind of notorious at this point for having like really physically intense and violent shows, and it was nice to not have to totally kill myself and to be able to rest on instead like the musicianship and like be able to just be like a quote unquote like good musician instead of just like a flailing maniac. So that was nice too.
So I have not been able to see you perform before, and I've read that your shows are super intense. So is it weird for you, I guess, to maybe perform and it not be as intense, or is it just totally fine?
I think it's a totally different experience playing for like Amanda's audience and playing in a church and everyone is sitting down and they're anticipating with Amanda, they're anticipating like a certain type of experience. They're anticipating like an emotional experience that can be handled while sitting down. They don't want they're not going to headbang. They don't want to dance. And typically I am on bills that are like, they're either noise bills or they're metal bills. And so people want kind of more intensity, like more physical intensity. So sometimes I feel like I have to match in my physical intensity and in my violence what people want from like loud 4 on the floor music, which is something that I can't provide or that I don't provide. So it was kind of a nice break to be able to do that.
That's really cool. Yeah, I saw a post of yours on Instagram. It was maybe like in the last month or so. I think it was with your tour with Amenra, where it was a photo of you after one of your sets. And, you know, I can't remember exactly what the caption was that went along with the photo, but it just got me thinking, because your shows and your set are so intense, how do you feel afterwards? I would imagine at the bare minimum, right? Your voice is probably freaking, or your throat is on fire, or your body might be kind of like really shaken up. So what goes through, what is that experience like for you when you perform and you're performing very, very violently and very, very intensely?
It's multifaceted. It is. I do have a lot of vocal issues because of doing this work, and I need to actually figure that out somehow and figure out what I'm doing wrong, because I actually had to cancel a tour earlier this year because my voice was so wrecked. But yeah, typically I have no voice and I'm like physically in pain. Maybe don't realize it at that moment, but I end up like very bruised or with a lot of injury. I broke my finger at one of the daughter shows earlier this fall, man. and didn't even realize for a while, and like just all kinds of stuff. But I mean, there are lots of people who perform intensely in a physical capacity. But yeah, I think the thing is that I put a lot on myself when I perform. I feel like typically when I walk into a venue, it's a matter of like, I feel like I have to prove everyone wrong and convince everyone of something, because a lot of the time, not all the time, but a lot of the time people are dismissive. There are a lot of people who I'm new still, and a lot of people don't know who I am. And so if I'm opening for like a bigger band, the venue or the sound guy might be just like and make assessments about what I do based on how I look, and like I can see it in their face that they're just like, they're disappointed. They're like, oh, it's a girl and she maybe sings, and maybe
so
if they've heard anything about me, they're like, oh, she sings angry stuff about girl stuff. And then that kind of continues while I sound check, and they're like, oh, this isn't cool. Like and when I perform, sometimes it's a matter of like people are like, everyone has this experience when they're opening, like people are kind of tolerating you while they wait for the headliner. And I feel like it's my job to like be a fucking monster and burn the building down and convince you that I'm worth seeing and I'm worth listening to. And I also feel like when I perform, I have to instill fear in people who do harm. I have to make people who don't understand, and I have to honor and give a cathartic experience to people who do understand and who do share like my experience. So I feel like if I don't do that every single show, I failed. Particularly those shows in Germany, like those shows with Amenra were insane, and Amenra is incredible. And we can talk more about them if you want, but but those shows for me, like I felt like I failed every single time, like unequivocally. Just like I was really flustered and stressed going to Europe by myself kind of for the first time. A lot of things that I hadn't thought of went wrong. And I was just like, I was crushed by how I did on all of those shows, and like had total ego death like for a week afterwards, and was just like destroyed when I came home. But yeah, so that photo is very real. I was just like so devastated. That was a really big show in Berlin with like 1,000 people, and I felt like I just totally failed. So yeah,
I'm so surprised to hear you say that. But you know, as you're saying some of this stuff, I'm just thinking like, shit, man. A lot of the people that I've interviewed have, you know, they have insecurities or doubts in their mind, just like everyone else. And I guess for me, you know, when I'm listening to bands or when I'm listening to your music, I'm like so blown away by how talented you are that I'm thinking there's got to be no way this person has doubts in their abilities. But yeah, I mean, it's probably just like others, right? You go and you perform and you're wondering if people are going to doubt you. And I have to imagine, just as you're mentioning the fact that you are a woman, that there are assholes that are going to dismiss you just because of that.
Yeah.
Do you feel like, does it feel for you that you have to, not only in your performance but in your music, do you feel the pressure of having to maybe really outshine, or not necessarily outshine, but really put something out there that is that much better just because of the fact that you are a woman and there are those schmucks that are gonna dismiss you because of that?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like, yeah, I have to do better than everyone else has ever done, which is impossible. And like, I can't do that, obviously, but that's kind of, that is my perfectionist mode of like, people are so ready to dismiss me because I'm a woman, or like put me in a certain box, in as much as like what the work is about, what the work does, how good a musician I am, what I know about tech, what I know about like composing music, what I should look like. And like, there's all of that stuff. And I feel like I have to exceed all of it. I'm really like, I want to just like exceed my gender in the work. Like I want it to be not like, oh, Kristin is a crazy angry woman, which is something that I've heard quite a few times, and to be just like, that person is a fucking monster. So that's what I'm trying to do, or hoping to do. But yeah, it can be pretty disheartening sometimes. I'm
just thinking, like you said, just an angry woman. Like you don't hear dudes that are in this arena being referred to as just like an angry guy. And I'm thinking, you know, I work in career counseling, and I can't even tell you how many women I have worked with over the years that share a similar sentiment, that, you know, the work that they do, they feel like they have to exceed expectations because they are constantly dismissed, or they're looked at as lesser than in their line of work or whatever environment it is that they're working in, which is such a shame. And you know, there's so many men that are quick to dismiss that, you know, oh no, women are equal. I'm really sorry that you have to deal with that shit, because that totally sucks.
It's okay. It's how it is, and it creates like a strong work ethic. And I think to some extent, like, it's working. I think that I'm proving people wrong, and that's kind of cool. But yeah, it is a lot of convincing that needs to happen, and it's hard, but it is what it is. It needs to change, hopefully, for everyone, for the benefit of everyone. But yeah, it sucks. It's fine.
and so to double back to Amenra, so you had posted a video of you performing with them on Instagram, which was so goddamn awesome, man. And I am so bummed because they're going to be playing Buffalo next week, and I'm going to be out of town. I'm so pissed.
Man.
Yeah. So there's a slim chance that I might be able to make it to the show, but I don't know if it's going to happen. When I saw that video, I was just like, this is fucking awesome, man. And I'm so surprised to hear that you didn't think those shows went as well as you had hoped. Was the experience, though, of being able to tour and play shows alongside Amenra, was that at least a positive experience for you? Or do you feel like to go back and do another tour similar to that, or to play overseas again, circumstances would have to be different, or it would have to be with a different group of folks?
Oh, no. They were amazing. Like that, anything that I fucked up, which is totally my responsibility, is on me, but like, it was worth it to see them play and to see how they do what they do, and to have kind of like a behind the scenes view of how they work, because they are just so fucking good. And like, I encourage, if you can go see them, go see them. If anyone who's listening who hasn't seen them yet, go see them. I think they're probably the most incredible band that I've ever seen live. It's funny because we do kind of similar things in our work, or we create kind of a similar environment and have similar motivations as far as why we do what we do. But they are so much further along than I am, and are kind of just like, I'm kind of just starting out, and they're like total masters. So to see how streamlined they are, and how they just crush it every night, crush it, and like the way that they affect people in the audience. And that was really insane to see, like performing with them. I got to perform the last couple of songs with them, and to be up there and to see the energy that they harness, and to like feel the energy that they harness from like 1,000 people in a room is insane. Because
that's
I can't.
So cool.
Yeah, it's really like, it's less of a concert experience and more, it really is closer to like our art historical 19th century romantic sublime concept. It just like kind of inspires awe. It's less like going to see a metal band. I don't really think of them as a metal band. It's like much closer to going to church, and the music I think is much, it's like a skip and a jump away from like spiritual minimalism or minimalism, and that the kind of like the feelings that kind of music evokes. So yeah, they're just incredible, just incredible.
That's awesome. Yeah, their last album, what was it, Mass 6, was seriously so fucking good. What songs, because you posted the video of the one song, so you got to perform with them on other songs as well. Which songs was it?
I did Kreuz. Yeah, Kreuz, which has clean female vocals. And that was interesting as well, because they are so, they play such big rooms that it's difficult to hear through the monitors, to hear clean vocals. And Colin was talking about that as well, the singer for Amenra, that he has difficulty at some points like hearing his own clean vocals. So I think I was pitchy sometimes, which is unusual for me to do that song, and then to do Ritual at the end. Was so cool, just so cool.
If there's a way that I can make it to Buffalo, I'm gonna make it happen, because yeah, that band is awesome as hell.
Yeah, they are.
So let's delve into your music, and I want to talk to you about All Bitches Die. Mm-hmm. The first time I had heard you was on The Body's most recent album, And Nothing Stir. Mm-hmm. My God, when I heard that album for the first time and I heard that song, I was completely blown away. Like, that song is absolutely incredible, and I love your vocals in that song.
Thank you.
It's absolutely incredible. And so you're very welcome. I started looking into who the hell is this that's performing with them, and I saw that it was you, and then that's how I discovered your music. And I wound up listening to All Bitches Die, and I was very I don't want to say taken aback, but I was very surprised by the name of the record. Mm-hmm. And so what made you want to name the album All Bitches Die?
That came out of the song, which at the time I felt that the song All Bitches Die was like the centerpiece of the record. And the song that everyone likes, Woe to All, was the one that I was most insecure about. I was like, this just sounds dumb, but that's the one that people are drawn to. The name comes from having played a show, I think it was with The Body, this show, at Machines with Magnets in Providence, Rhode Island, technically Pawtucket, Rhode Island, and having this guy who seemed like super bemused after I played my set. And I think this is a set like where I do this cover of Eminem's Kim,
oh my God.
in which he
was not expecting that at all.
In which he like graphically describes murdering his wife. And so I do that song, and I do another song that has the word bitch in it. And so there was a lot of like profanity in the set. And after I played, there was some guy kind of backstage, and he just like looked at me, and he was very bemused, like very much like not impressed. And he was just like, "So is the bitch dead?" And I was just like, the bitch is me. All bitches die. And that became the title of the song, and then the title of the record. I wanted it to be confrontational, and for people to ask questions about like, why is it called this? What is this about? And I figured that some people would I honestly, when I released that record or that EP, whatever it was, I didn't think that anyone would hear it ever. Like I didn't have like any designs on being like, I'm going to put this out and everyone, a bunch of people are going to listen to it and it's going to be put out on a label and blah, blah, blah. I really just like, I put it out apologetically, and the one before that as well, Let the Evil. And I was just like, okay, these are songs that I've just been performing in Providence. Like, sorry, everyone, that you feel like you might have to pay for it. Yeah, I didn't think that a lot of people would hear it, but now it's become kind of like a thing. And it's interesting because it's become a thing that people can say all bitches die, or that's that's like a term that people can like use now or feel comfortable using in context of this music. Some people still write to me and they're afraid to say the name of or the title of the record, but it's become like a title that has meaning now, I guess. So it's interesting.
So do you feel that the title has done justice to what your initial intention was?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think it adequately describes the mood of the record, and it's a good preamble to what you listen to. I think
you are totally correct, because yeah, like I said, I listened to Nothing Stirs, I found All Bitches Die, and then you listen to the album and you're like, yep, that's you are correct. All bitches die. I'm curious as to how you honed your sound, because I don't know, man, maybe there are other artists out there making music similar to yours, but I have never listened to another band or an artist that is doing what you are doing in terms of bringing in components of metal, noise, and classical music, and you do it so well.
Oh, thank you.
You're very welcome. How did you hone this sound and cultivate this sound that you have made for yourself?
It comes from a few different places, I think. I think I've realized more and more as I'm making music in this project that I'm really just not interested in genre or style at all as far as this music goes. I think of the work much more conceptually, as opposed to I'm going to make a metal record, or I'm going to make a death industrial record, or I'm going to make a noise record. I think if I wanted to make a power electronics record, or like a sludge metal record, or like a harsh noise record, I could and I would, but that really doesn't interest me at this point. I'm really more interested in using the conceits and like the tropes and the different kind of tricks that these different genres utilize, and putting them in a very specific framework that utilizes them most effectively to service the content. I love metal and I love noise and I like some industrial music and I love classical music. I've just stopped being kind of interested in making music that it does any particular one of those things, I guess.
I had read an interview that you did with Cult Nation, and I read something that totally blew me away. And it's essentially what you were just speaking to, that you find texts or you make lyrics and then you craft a sound around that.
Yeah. And
I don't think any person that I've interviewed, myself included, makes music that way. I'm pretty sure you're the only person that I've come across that does that. And I find that so impressive.
Thank you.
Because you're very welcome. I have a long like document that I have where I've been writing like short stories, poetry, lyrics, and there have been times where I have something written where I'm like, this is awesome. I would love to create something around it, and it is so goddamn tough for me.
Right.
So how do you do that? How do you accomplish that? Because like I said, for me, it's super difficult. I have to imagine for others it's difficult. How the hell do you accomplish that?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting process. For me, I think it has to do with my very kind of specific training in art. I grew up and I was, when I was a kid, I started classical voice lessons and classical piano. So I have training in classical music, but not training in composition necessarily, in like classical composition or in songwriting of any form. And then I went to art school and I developed this really weird interdisciplinary practice. And ultimately, like, this is kind of what it comes from. I developed this practice that was based in text and sound and performance and in visual work as well. So I would create these kind of graphic scores for music, but they were text. And I got into using digital or like using technology to mediate the language that would create the score for the music. So I started using like predictive text models, like a Markov chain, which will like, you put, 3 words into the model and then it will, or like a sequence of words into the model, and then it will predict what the next 3 words will be, and so on and so forth. So it's like text that generates itself. So I have this kind of research-based practice in art that's based in that kind of like interdisciplinary zone. And that's how I put things together now in this work, is like, because a lot of the lyrics also, like, they aren't mine. They're taken from somewhere else. They're appropriated. So I'll take, little fragments of someone's text and put that in a place, and then think like, what will sonically make sense here? And then what will that lead to? So I kind of think of it in terms of like code, or like those predictive text models, or like how, like, I don't really think of it in terms of like writing a song at all. Like, I don't think of it in terms of really music composition. It's really more of like a conceptual, research-based, like fine arts practice almost. It's very strange. I don't know how it comes together, but it does somehow. That's
incredible. And I am not surprised by what you're telling me. When I listened to your music and I read that you had an art background, I'm just like, this is pure art, man. And I'm not surprised at all by how you're explaining this, because I could totally get that sense when I listen to your music that you are creating this in a way that has a very specific and artistic approach to creating this music. So I'm not surprised by that in the least. And what I do find very surprising is the Markov chain. I wrote that down because I'm totally going to look into that, because I think that is very, very interesting. The themes in your music are very, very dark themes. Mm-hmm. And, I remember listening to All Bitches Die for the first time and having experienced it, being like, holy shit, it's very dark. There's themes of violence and physical abuse and a vengeful God. Mm-hmm. And what has made you want to explore those kinds of themes in the music that you're making?
Needing to process my own experiences of surviving domestic violence and surviving assault for many, many years. And I think that's another reason why I make the work the way I do, is because I wouldn't be comfortable, or I don't, it's both. I wouldn't be comfortable expressing the themes of the work in like a confessional, contemporary context. Like, I wouldn't be able to, I am less interested in expressing or in like retelling exactly what happened to me. And I'm more interested in expressing the feelings of absolute despair and rage and hopelessness and entrapment and loneliness that I think is common to all of us who've experienced assault and domestic violence. And so I feel like if I were to just be like a very graphic retelling of stuff that's happened to me in like this confessional, literal way, it wouldn't be as effective as putting things in this kind of like allegorical biblical context. And so that's another reason I think why there's a lot of appropriation, why there's a lot of like text from other places, why the genre shifts around a lot, because stylistically I want to create that very kind of destabilizing environment that I experienced. So the work came out of needing to process and express these things, but I wanted to do it in a way that was not conventional and very unorthodox and very kind of confrontational in a way that people wouldn't expect, and that would maybe help people understand who don't understand, if that makes any sense. I'm not sure if it does.
Yeah. I'm thinking back to when I listened to your album for the first time, and Holy is the Name of My Ruthless Acts came on. And at the time I thought the lyric was my rapist lays beside me. And I was totally dumbfounded by just how incredible that song was and the lyrics of them. And so once I started reading up on you and kind of reading that you had been a survivor of abuse, that further compounded how impressed I was with your album, because to be able to write about that sort of stuff and share that with others, and to make music that is so I'm going to say innovative.
Thank you.
I think is super impressive. How does that feel for you when you are writing about that stuff, when you're sharing with the world that you are a survivor of abuse? Is it anxiety inducing? Is it empowering for you? And then likewise, how does it feel when you get to perform those songs that do delve into your domestic abuse?
Right. It's complicated. It's multifaceted again. I think I said this a little bit earlier, but I'll say it again. Like I've started realizing the more that I perform this work, that this work is less about me and it's more about like shared experience, and the role that I take on when I perform and when I make this music is becoming less and less me, and it's becoming more allegorical. And so that makes it a little bit easier because I get to kind of dissociate from myself and become like a different entity. Because as myself, like I am the least confrontational, most shy, most socially anxious, like little fucking dingus. But then I when I get up and perform, I have to embody something else. I have to embody the attitude of the music, and I allow myself to go there fully, and feel completely dedicated to embodying whatever that is. But it can be, if I'm not totally there, that's when it can be very anxiety inducing. And that song that you mentioned, Holy is the Name, I don't perform that one very often because that one it is the most kind of literal song that I have. And that one is hard to perform. And I've performed it a few times where it's gotten kind of like negative responses from the room. And so that one is rough to do sometimes. So yeah, I really have to be like fully in this entity or like this embodied presence that really isn't me to be able to pull it off effectively, I think.
Yeah, that song is so emotionally powerful because if I'm not mistaken, there's the sample from Eileen Warnos in the beginning of the song, right?
Yeah.
Which that alone is like very, very attention grabbing. And then the music and the lyrics, it's very, very emotionally powerful. I'm assuming there are individuals that reach out to you, that come up to you, whether at shows, and are talking to you or thanking you maybe for kind of making the music that you make because they've dealt with something similar or experiences that were somewhat similar.
Yes, yeah, that does happen a lot, and it's really it really is very bolstering for me, and it helps me as much as it helps them because it really is about like a shared experience. And like I said, like it's not really about me per se, and that I can be of service in some way to the world with music. It feels like it's like I have a purpose at last because I've been searching for a long time of like, you know, how am I going to contribute to the world? What am I going to do? And I feel like this is it. And I feel like, you know, I'm only an artist, and I'm not, you know, I'm not like a great person or not like a leader or anything, but I can do this art and help people with the art somehow. And that makes me feel really good. And so, yeah, I do get a lot of people writing to me about their experiences, and that's really wonderful. And it's wonderful that people feel like that they trust me enough to open up to me about what they've been through. So yeah, it's really powerful for me.
That's really cool. And, you know, kudos to you for being willing to share that with others and to allowing yourself to be vulnerable, because I think it totally makes the music that you are making that much more engaging and that much more powerful. So yeah, thanks, man.
Thank you.
I want to talk about religion because that is definitely a theme in your music. It's funny, this is the third interview in a row where religion has come up, and I'm not a religious person at all. But I find religion, the topic of religion, God, the devil, I find it very fascinating and very interesting. And your music has that presence of a vengeful God constantly hovering over most of your songs.
Right. Yes.
And so was that a thought that you had prior to, and you decided I this is absolutely what I want to have thematically in my music, or did it just come organically?
It was kind of a mixture of both. I was raised in not a super strict religious background, but I was definitely raised in the Catholic Church and went to parochial school for my formative years in education, and was taught by nuns, and went to church every morning, and was like an altar girl. I started my first experiences performing music were performing in choirs at church when I was a little kid, and then being like leading the church in song, and then doing lots of solo work with the church. So the church is a really big part of my musical upbringing, and I've always been really fascinated, or like rather when I was about 13 years old, maybe 12, I just became like stone cold atheist, like totally disavowed the idea of God, and was like, I don't believe in any of this. And just got really into like German existential philosophy instead. And during that time, I was always fascinated still by the pageantry and the theatrics of, in particular, Catholicism, and also interested in like the corruption of the church and like the evils of the church and the kind of backwards ideas of a lot of Catholicism and a lot of organized religion, but also being super invested in music that's written in worship, and I think in structures that are built for worship, and like having a really strong relationship to like cathedrals or the music of Bach, which is almost all of it is written for God, and finding that this music was really so simple in its motivations. Like the music of Bach doesn't do anything except worship God and mathematically do that in this very like complex, beautiful, technical way. And I think that's really incredible and really, really beautiful. So later on in life, I started to re-examine my relationship to God. And I think as a result of trauma and abuse and wanting to like smite people, wanting people to be smote, and like thinking about like good and evil, because I felt like I had confronted true evil. And then what does that mean? Like if there is evil in the world, is there a God? And so just like all these questions, it's a very complicated relationship I have to religion. I kind of hate it and I kind of am in awe of it, but I try to create a bizarrely terrifying spiritual place in the music.
Oh yeah, you do that very, very, very effectively.
But I don't know, like I think that's something that I'm still figuring out in the work, honestly. Like I'm trying to figure out what the relationship is to God. The use of biblical language, I think, is key in the work. And again, that goes back into like being allegorical, being not literal, having an identity that exceeds like human, exceeds female gender, exceeds any kind of gender, and is just like all powerful. And that is kind of the attitude that I want to convey with the work. I think is one of like all powerful, total death forever. Amen. I guess.
Man, as you're saying this, I'm just thinking in my head, I'm thinking of the lyrics for I Am the Light. That fucking song, man, is so goddamn crushing. And the fact that you use that biblical tone or similar types of language that you might hear in like biblical allegories makes the lyrics so effective. And I feel like it does the music such a justice. Would you say that you are more religious now than you were in your teens? Yes.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I'm religious. I don't know. It's weird. I have a very like amorphous relationship with religion at this point. I mean, I again, like I have this really, really strong relationship to like Catholic iconography and like Catholic symbols, like, but I also like, I read in the news about what the fucking Catholics are up to. And I'm like, fuck you guys, die in a hole. I mean, it's, and I guess that's kind of the attitude of the music as well, is like this entity that moves between like total corruption, abuse, and evil, and like total beauty and light and good. So I mean, I guess it makes sense ultimately, but like fucking Catholics, man, I don't know.
I grew up Catholic, and I lived on Staten Island from when I was like 6 to 12 or 13. And I went to this little elementary school called PS 26. And we would I can't remember if it was Tuesdays or Wednesdays, myself and a bunch of people in my class that were also Catholic, we would have a monitor walk us from the school to the church, which was maybe half a mile. And we would have our like little Catholic school kind of like teaching, preparing us for I think it's communion that comes first. I think back on it now, and I don't want to say that I have negative feelings towards it, but I kind of don't like that I was going through that at such a young age. My mom was, I will totally give my mom some credit here. Once I was confirmed, she said it was up to me if I wanted to continue going on and going to church and stuff, and I was like, hell no.
Yeah.
But I remember when I was grappling and coming to grips with my beliefs in religion and in God, it was frightening as fucking hell.
Yeah.
Because, Catholicism is such like, God is merciful, but God will fuck you up if you are not following his laws and his rules.
Yes.
And I was terrified. And then once I finally said, I don't believe this anymore, and I'm okay with that, it felt very... almost like a goddamn weight was lifted off of my shoulders. So I guess what I'm trying to ask is, like, for you, since that you kind of have this maybe love-hate relationship, or maybe a relationship with religion that is kind of back and forth, does it feel like to you that sometimes there is that weight that you grapple with because of that back and forth or that give and take?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and you're totally right. Like, if you question the existence of God, or like, abnegate the existence of God, your threat is like eternal hellfire. So, I mean, and no other option. So I was also terrified when I was a kid, and was like, well, this is not what I want, and this is not what I believe. And were you scared of telling your parents that you didn't believe in God?
Oh my God, my mom, like, when I broke it to her, she was so bummed.
Yeah.
She was so bummed because she I'll never forget this. And I've had to apologize to her in years after, because I felt so bad. I was going to drive to my friend's house, and she like ran out of the house to stop me. She's like, Dan, I want to give you this. Mm-hmm. And it was like a keychain for one of the saints. I can't remember which saint it was. If it was, because my middle name is Paul, so I think it might have been St. Paul. I couldn't even tell you. At that point, I had like come to grips with, I don't believe in God. And I just said, Mom, I'm sorry, I don't want this. And in retrospect, I should have just said, take it, and just threw it in my glove box or whatever. The look on her face was so just completely wrought with sadness. Oh man. And she's like, oh, okay. And she just went back in the house. And like, now when I think back, I feel so bad. But yeah, so I will totally give my mom props, because she has never been one to say like, you're going to regret this, or this, you need to rethink this. Mm-hmm. She totally is cool with my beliefs, and she is accepting of what I believe. But yeah, I'll never forget that day, man. I've definitely had to apologize to her for that.
That doesn't sound actually like such a bad response.
Yeah, it could have been a lot worse. Like I've known people who their families are very religious, and they're not, and that does not go over well with them. Yeah, my mom definitely has her quirks, but in that stuff, she's freaking awesome.
Oh yeah, I meant also like that you didn't sound like you were being too big a jerk, or a jerk at all.
I guess what it was, like I think about like my mom was just so bummed that like, oh my God, my son doesn't believe this. Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, that's really hard.
So like with your parents, did they know when you were maybe questioning your beliefs or maybe thinking like, I don't believe there's a God? Did you talk to them about that?
I think they knew. Well, they knew that I was becoming like a weirdo because I was starting to dress in this like alternative and androgynous way. And I started listening to like Nirvana and Nine Inch Nails and like Skinny Puppy. And they were just like, what is going on with our child? Like, what is wrong with this person that we raised to be a beautiful, perfect little angel? So I think they had like intuition that I was exploring different belief system or that was not going to be a normal kid. So when I remember actually telling my dad, like in the car on the way home from Bible study, I think it was at church. And I was just like, I was so fucking scared to tell him. And I was just like, Dad, I don't know if I believe in God at all. And he was like, that's okay. I don't know if I do either. He's like, but.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. But he was like, both of my parents were also raised Catholic. And my dad explained it as like, he feels that the church and organized religion gives people ways to organize their lives, that gives life meaning, and that makes people better people, or like better people to live with in civilization, and has like a moral code that he likes. So that made sense to me.
When I was in college, I can't remember the class I took. It was like a sociology or a philosophy class. And what was awesome was we read a book that basically was pretty much just like New Testament stuff. Mm-hmm. And what was incredible, because, growing up, like I was mentioning, going to these schools to prepare for confirmation and communion, a lot of what I remember was, okay, you can't do this and you can't do this. And if you do this, this is what's going to happen. But reading this book and reading stuff from the New Testament about essentially Jesus just being this dude that wanted to spread peace and love and care and having their, people take care of each other. Mm-hmm. I remember reading that being like, this is fucking awesome. Mm-hmm. This is what religion should be. It should just be people caring for one another, supporting one another, and spreading peace.
Right.
And I guess it's just human nature that we have to, of course, always muck up the waters. But yeah, I remember reading that being like, this is fucking awesome. This is really cool.
Yeah.
Religion is such a weird thing, man.
It really is.
I remember when I was coming to grips with this, my brother and I are super close, and he'd be like, yeah, of course. You listen to all that devil worshiping shit. Of course you're not going to believe in God. But yeah, when I listen to your music, I think when you bring everything together and you have that component to your music, it makes it just that much more powerful. Because I'm sure that there are people like me that maybe are not religious. There's people that listen to your music that probably are religious, or maybe some folks that are in between, mm-hmm. that it can be very powerful for them in a very emotional type of experience. And again, I think you do such a great job with the lyrics and the text that you bring in, because it is very story-like, it's very allegorical. Mm-hmm. So you do a great job in creating this atmosphere and this story for some of your songs.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I want to talk about some things that you have coming up, because you got a lot of cool things coming up in the coming weeks, in the coming months. Mm-hmm. So you've got a split coming out with the Rita.
Yes.
And the songs that you're on and that you're covering are such cool songs. I'd never heard of them before. So it's Scott Walker's Girls from the Streets and Dolly Parton's Jolene. I never heard mm-hmm. either of those songs before. So I had to listen to them on Spotify, and they're both awesome songs, and there's totally not what I would expect you to cover. And so I wanted to ask you, what made you want to do your own renditions of both of those songs?
Well, yeah, for this split with Sam and I have been talking a lot for a couple years, just like exchanging emails and talking on the phone and stuff, and being like, we're really close friends, and we have pretty good idea of what the other person likes. And so for this split, which is called Commissioned, we kind of commissioned work for each other. And so he wanted me to do Girls from the Streets, which is one of his favorite songs, I think.
That is so awesome.
Yeah. And I think, and I'm a huge Scott Walker fan as well. So I did that song, and I did kind of like a really kind of bare version of that. And then I also chose Jolene, which is a song that I also cover sometimes when I play. And that's a song that I love. And I think it's really chilling and really beautiful. And so then for Sam's side, I asked him to do arrangements of, or like harsh noise deconstructions of Stravinsky string pieces, or like Stravinsky based string pieces. So it's a really interesting split because we sound completely different, but we are like very closely bound mentally. So that one was a really fun one to do. Yeah, love Sam. Sam is an incredible artist. Truly a magnificent brain, incredible work for like over 25 years, I think now.
I think that's so cool that he picked that song for you. That's awesome as hell. Is it tough for you to cover a song and kind of make it match your sound, I guess, so to speak? You know, because I don't really like to play other people's music, and my thing would be I would just play it exactly how they play it. I wouldn't really know where the hell to begin to make it sound my own. So is it tough for you to do that or no?
No, it's actually it's much easier than playing my own work sometimes. Again, I come from a classical music background, and all that is performing other people's music and reinterpreting someone else's composition. So it's fairly, for me, it's fairly easy. I really like doing that. I like taking songs that are really unexpected and turning them into something real weird, like that Eminem song. I really enjoy doing that because nobody sees that coming.
I would have never guessed that.
Nobody sees Dolly Parton's Jolene coming. Nobody sees Scott Walker coming from me, and I like to do that. And it's everything. Most of music is like chord progressions and chord changes and stuff. So it's simple-ish for me to put that together in my own specific way. I just did I'm working on a cover of Iron Lung's Sexless No Sex. And I'm just like, I've been obsessed with Iron Lung forever. And I finally got to do a cover of that song. And it's been like one of my favorite songs. And it actually appears in my music, or that title does, because I'm so in love with that record. And so that's another one that people probably wouldn't expect me to do. But I did it, and I'm really excited about getting to do it. So yeah, covering is fun.
That's awesome.
It's on Total Black, which is this really amazing, totally fucking hard label out of Berlin that does like the hardest fucking noise releases. So I'm really excited to work with them, and yeah, I'm pumped on it.
That's so cool. And I just saw this week that you got to contribute on the new Full of Hell album that's coming out, which is awesome as hell, because Full of Hell is so goddamn awesome. How did that come to fruition?
Oh man, my friends in Full of Hell. So pretty much everything that is happening to me is because of the body. My friends Chip and Lee have been like unflagging supporters of mine before anybody knew who I was. They've taken me on tour 4 times, and like 3 out of those 4 times nobody knew who I was. They were like short tours, or like one of them I was playing in the body with them, but like they have taken me out a bunch of times. When I sang on I Have Fought Against It, nobody knew who I was, and Lee just like, we'd played a couple shows together in Providence, and Lee was just like, do you want to come in and sing on the record? And I was just like, me? Why? And he's like, yeah, sing on the record. And so, they let me do that. They're just the best people and the best band in the world. I maintain this for the rest of my life until my dying days. But through the body and getting to tour with them and getting to have Chip and Lee as like some of my best friends at this point, I feel like I have kind of an extended family in music and through their friends. And so like people like Thou and Full of Hell, who are close with the body, are also close to me now. Dylan from Full of Hell is actually the person who got All Bitches Die into the hands of Profound Lore, and then Profound Lore reached out to me, and that's how the reissue happened. And Dylan and Lee and I have a project that we just started or that we not just started, but that we are finally finishing now. And hopefully that will materialize this year. So I love Dylan. He's the actual sweetest person on the planet. Totally like a really, really humble, sweet, kind person. You would never know that he's in this giant band that's super successful. But yeah, so he sings on my record, and we have this collab together with Lee, and he asked me to do this song on their record as well. And the song, I think it's going to be the next song that they premiere from Weeping Choir. The song is so good. I'm so excited for everyone to hear it. I think
I can't wait to hear that album.
The album is so good. It's gonna fucking break the internet. It's so good. But yeah, I'm so psyched to be on that song. It's a great song.
That's awesome. So I'm just thinking, the Body, they must have seen kind of like what the world is getting to see now of you, that they saw that talent and they wanted to give you hopefully open some doors for you, it sounds like then.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fuck yeah, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, they're the best. They're the actual best. So yeah, love my buds.
That's so
Chip and
cool.
Lee. Yeah.
And shit, man, like was it a couple of months ago it was announced that like now you are going to be managed by Sargent House?
Yes.
Which is so cool. They're very, very big.
Yes.
And I think that is so goddamn awesome. So like what went through your head when you found out that they were going to be managing you?
Oh man. I mean, I am so psyched to work with Kathy. It really it's very moving for me to be able to work with her, because she's like the biggest badass that I have ever met in my life. She is like takes no prisoners style, just like so fucking badass. And it's really, I was having some issues in the bro zone this past year. I was having some problems that were personal, but they were affecting me professionally, because people are all interconnected, and I was literally just I was dealing with bro issues, and I didn't have very much strong female energy around me. And so I think that a lot of people had been talking to Kathy. I know Nick from Daughters had been talking to her, and Nick is a friend. And Daughters also, what a fucking phenomenal band they are. Very lucky to have played with them. So wonderful. So Nick from Daughters had talked to her about me, and Christina from King Woman had talked to her about me. And Christina is also amazing person, and so prolific and so productive and total genius.
She's such a goddamn powerhouse, right?
Such a powerhouse. And she has, when I first met her, I was like, you have the most powerful energy of any person I've ever met. She just she has this incredible presence that is just so beautiful. And so Kathy came to one of the Daughters shows that I played in LA, and saw me play, and then we started working together. And it's such an honor for me, because the artists that she works with are incredible and very successful, and she really, really supports her bands and is a huge advocate for her artists. And honestly, her life story is really insane, and how she's her success is totally self-made, and she's done everything. She's a single mom, and raised a child while working these insane gigs, managing and being an agent for photographers, and then doing production for these incredible music videos. And someone needs to write a book about Kathy and her life, or make a film about her, because she's just you sit down and talk to her, and she's just man, she's the coolest. It's really, yeah. So I'm really excited to work with her. She's been amazing, and it's been really nice to have a female presence who's also such a badass. And sometimes I'm Kathy, these people aren't being nice to me. And she's fuck them. harness the power of Eileen Warnos, because I am kind of like an insecure baby sometimes. And she helps me be strong. So I'm really thankful that she's in my life. It's been a huge, it's been huge for me.
Fuck yeah, man. And based on our discussion earlier, I'm assuming then when you first started making music, you never thought you would be in a point where Profound Lore is putting out your music and you'd be working with Sargent House.
No. I never ever thought that. I thought at best it would be like I'd be hanging out in like the noise scene somewhere, playing poorly attended gigs forever. Not to disparage the noise. I'll disparage some of the noise scene. A bunch of fucking scumbags, a lot of them. But like, there's a lot of great stuff happening in the noise scene. But like, yeah, I'd never thought that I would be where I am today, which is like, there's still a long ways to go. And I always want to improve and be doing better as a person, but as an artist also. And so I'm just totally floored by all this stuff that's going on. I honestly don't understand it. Yeah, it's real bizarre, but I'm along for the ride.
Hell yeah, man. You deserve it, dude.
Thank you.
You totally deserve it. Like I said, there is such an artistry in the music that you are making, and you totally deserve it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So I would be remiss in asking, if I didn't ask, I should say, what could people expect with your new album that's coming out?
Oh, the new record it's insane. It's just insane. I don't really know how else, like it really, oh man. It's very large, first of all. It's very long. It's very different from All Bitches Die, but it references All Bitches Die in a lot of ways. And I think that's something that I want to do in my work as well, is really create, because I think I am kind of trying to create my own genre or my own way of making work. So I'm interested in kind of like the world building that's going to become a part of my practice, I think. So referencing myself and referencing things that have already happened in the work is something that happens on this record. I take a lot of risks on this record, and one of those risks, maybe I can talk like a little bit about some of this stuff, is that I had to become comfortable with the voice not being beautiful. And because in all of my work so far, one of the things that I use is I have this very specific like reverb cocktail that I create in my software. And that makes like a very beautiful, long lasting tone with like, I don't know, 15-second trail or whatever. And in this record, I work with Seth at Machines with Magnets, who does all of the Bodies records. He did the Last Daughters record. He does really, really great stuff. And I was talking with Seth, and he was like, "You can't do this reverb the whole time on your record. Like he's like, it'll be boring." And I'm like, I don't want to, because it makes the voice sound pretty, and I don't want to. I have like this classical nerd inside me that's like, everything has to be technically perfect, even though I'm not doing a perfect vocal at all, or like even a classical vocal ever really in this project. So we stripped away that reverb, and like, I just let the voice be ugly. It's just ugly. And there are some points where it's like so ugly, I can't bear to listen to it. And there are some points where it's like pitchy, and we left it in because it makes it sound even more fucked up. And it's just like the voice is very like gender fluid on this record, which is also maybe more reflective of me. And it also creates this really weird sense of space, because I feel like the space on All Bitches Die is very like removed and remote and like very kind of icy and cold. But on this record, it is like I am everywhere. Like I'm right up in your ear, I'm behind you, I'm on top of you, I'm beside you. It sounds very predatory. So yeah, there's a lot of really kind of interesting acoustic things going on, or like acousmatic things going on the record. A lot of weird instrumentation. It's a very, very strange record. I hope people like it. We'll see. But yeah, I'm really excited for it to come out. That's going to be in the summer. So we'll see.
I can't wait.
Thank
I
you.
am seriously like, that's one of my most anticipated albums of this year. So I cannot wait to hear it.
Thank you. Oh man, yeah, I'm excited. We'll see. I know you never know. Everyone might hate it, but we'll see.
I've got faith. In you.
Thank you.
So what have you been listening to lately? What bands or music have you been jocking?
Oh man, I'm such a dork. Like I listen to just my friends' music a lot. I'm such like a little doofus. I like to listen to my friends' music because it makes me feel closer to them when I'm not like geographically close. So I listen to The Body all the time. I listen to Full of Hell all the time. I listen to King Woman all the time. I listen to Amenra, and like I don't know. I feel like emotionally supporting my friends through listening often. But I'm on this weird kick right now so I rarely listen to like contemporary music, and that's one of the other things I think that helps me stay clear of like genre and styling. I'm listening to a lot of like organ music from the 1700s and 1600s.
Whoa.
Yeah. So I sit in my room a lot and listen to like 4 or 5 hours of organ concertos, and it puts me in a really weird space. I think it's really beautiful and bizarre and eerie music, and I like what it does to my brain. So I listen to that a lot. I listen to my friend Nora, who is a really incredible trans artist in Providence. Just put out a record, or like her first studio EP, I think, in her project as Visibilities, and she is incredible. And the last thing she put out, I posted about it a few months ago, is called Trauma, and it's 50 songs that she recorded while admitted in a mental facility, and songs that she recorded like on her iPhone at the piano in the rec room, and they're just so crushing. It's just the best music. It's so real, and her voice is just, she has this insane, beautiful, emotional and incredible range. I find voices really striking, so I like to listen to a lot of vocal music, like any kind of extended vocal or like strange vocal, unearthly vocal. I listen to a lot of classical music that uses countertenors, which is sort of meant to replicate the sound of a castrato, or when men were castrated back in the, I don't know, I think the practice stopped like early 20th century, to achieve the range of a female soprano, so like a very, very, very high voice, but with the expression and the chest support of a male. So apparently it was like, there isn't really any recording of this. There's maybe like 1 or 2 recordings of castrati singing, but it's just like this incredibly powerful sound that doesn't really have gender. And so countertenors today sing in like a head voice or a falsetto that's meant to kind of replicate that. And so I listen to a lot of that and find it really interesting. Joan LaBarbera, who's an extended vocalist in the academic context, I listen to a lot of her. I'm trying to think of like bands that I've been turned on to recently. I really love Elizabeth Color Wheel.
They're fantastic. Their new album is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah.
And what did you say your friend's band's name is? Invisibilities?
Visibilities.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. Because
Yeah.
I got to check them out.
Oh yeah, she's incredible. She also sings on my record coming up. I'm really excited to have her.
Nice.
Yeah, I think the new Full of Hell, like I've been blasting the new Full of Hell for the past several weeks now. It's really good. I think it's gonna be huge.
Sweet. And so you've got your album coming out in the next couple of months. You just released your split with Arita. Is there anything else coming down the pipeline in the coming weeks or the months?
Let's see. I'm going on tour in like 7-10 days with Kristin, author and Punisher. We're going to Europe for a month, so I'm looking forward to that. That's gonna be. He's incredible. He's a fucking genius, like legit genius. And thereafter, going to be doing stuff with the record. We're going to make a music video. working with Mitch from Thou on that. And those are kind of, I have like a lot of collaborations on deck that I can't really talk about, but that I'm really, really excited about. I'm really excited to work with all of these people. It's great. So yeah, a lot more collaborations are coming.
So I'm thinking, shit, you've got 2019 is going to be a jam-packed year for you then, right?
I think it will be. I'm really excited about it. It's going to be crazy.
That's awesome. And like, what's the best way for people to stay up to date with your music, your tours, albums that are dropping?
Yeah, I think I'm on most of the social things now, but I post most frequently to Instagram. So that's probably the best place to find me. Yeah. But yeah, I recently went back to Twitter reluctantly. So I'm there now as well and on Facebook. But yeah, so I try to stay apprised or keep people apprised of what's going on.
Well, Kristin, thank you so goddamn much for taking the time to come onto the show and speak with me. I couldn't even begin to tell you how excited I was when we set this up. So thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan, for having me. I really appreciate it. It was really, really nice talking to you.
And there it is, my friends. There is my conversation with Kristin Hayter. Super friggin' nice. Really enjoyed my conversation with her. She said so many interesting things to me. You know, one of the things that I found so extremely interesting is the fact that for Kristin, she's interested in creating her own genre and creating something that is very, very unique, very innovative. And I thought it was extremely interesting to hear her talk about world building with her music and, you know, potentially referencing previous tracks or songs that she's created in some of her new material. So I'm very excited about that. And I cannot wait to hear the track that she got to contribute to on the upcoming Full of Hell album, because Full of Hell is fucking awesome. And I have to imagine that her part in that song is just going to be cool as shit. And I'm really excited on her upcoming project with the dudes from Full of Hell and The Body. I think that's going to be really freaking cool. For my European listeners, Kristin is currently on tour with Author and Punisher, so go out and see her if you have the opportunity. Her live sets look fucking crazy. So yeah, don't miss an opportunity to see her. I haven't seen her yet, but I will definitely make that happen at some point. So get the hell out there and go see her play. I'll make sure to add links in the show notes to how you can follow Kristin on social media, how you can listen to her music, how you could buy some of her merch. So yeah, follow her, get your asses to a show, see her, and cop some of her merch. So yeah, go listen to Lingua Ignota, check her out, and you guys know the drill. Subscribe to the show, follow my goofy ass, and then get out there, create something cool. I will see you all next time.